Welcome to the Bible Forum. This is June 24th, 2018 edition. We're looking around the world this week at the various issues that came up and had some connection with biblical concepts, morality, culture, all of that sort of thing. We learned in the last week or so that the United States is withdrawing from the UN Human Rights Council there in New York. Our ambassador, the former governor, Nikki Haley, governor of South Carolina, branded the global body as, quote, a cesspool of political bias, end of quote. I think she's a little extreme, don't you? No, it's only been that way since the day the United Nations got started. They don't like us. They're really slanted completely away from us. We are totally out of sync with anything the United Nations believes or tries to do. And the only reason that we have any say up there is because, well, we pay for it. It's on our property and we put the lion's share in, and they can't do much about that. What she said was, we take this step because our commitment does not allow us to remain a part of a hypocritical and self-serving organization that makes a mockery of human rights. It's about time somebody said it. In 2014, when Hillary Clinton was gearing up for another presidential run, she argued children of legal immigrants are not entitled to stay in the United States. CNN anchor Christine Amanpour asked her, should they, the children, be able to stay here? It's safer. And Hillary said, it may be safer, but that's not the answer. You see, she said, we need to provide more border security in southern Mexico. They should be sent back as soon as it can be determined who the responsible adults are in their families. We have to send a clear message. Just because your child gets across the border doesn't mean your child gets to stay. We don't want to send a message that is contrary to our laws or that will encourage more children to make that dangerous journey. Oh, her boss, President Barack Obama, made the same argument. The argument that our now President Donald Trump is making on a regular basis about the problems with our current immigration law. He said, do not send your children to the border. Direct quote. He went on to say the problem is that under current law, once those kids come across the border, there's a system in which we're supposed to process them, take care of them until we can send them back. That, from him, was just a little disingenuous given Border Patrol policy during his tenure as president. More than 110,000 unaccompanied children have been released into the interior of the United States since the beginning of fiscal year 2016. That, according to the Department of Health and Human Services. The number of these unaccompanied children at ports of entry increased by 636% between April 2017 and April 2018. Border Patrol apprehensions of these children were 331% higher for April of 2018 than they were a year earlier. Only 3.4% of these children encountered at the border in fiscal year 2014 from countries other than Mexico had been removed or returned. That was as of fiscal year 2017. These cases, these children pending in immigration courts now total 78,000. Now that's only an increase of 3,500 in fiscal year 2009. The truth is, if you can handle it, responding to Laura Bush's criticism of Trump's border policy, White House spokesperson Laura Sanders said during the White House daily briefing just last Monday that the policy was signed into effect in 2008. That means it was under Laura Bush's husband's leadership that this policy was enacted. You know, the one that she spoke out against. It's terrible. She also added that the Trump administration inherited the previous administration's immigration problem and is the first to actually step up and try to fix it. Apparently, in our culture with the progressives, you can't fix stuff. If it's broken on purpose. And the people who try to fix it are the problem. Do you like to play video games? Do you remember Pong? Bing, bong, bing, bong. Yeah. That was in what? 1980? Something like that? Well, we've gone through several iterations. We now have come to a new video game called Fortnite. It is currently the most popular video game in the entire world. Have you ever heard of it? I never did. A guy who pays attention. For some, it is literally taking over their entire lives. More than 40 million people, probably most of them young people, young adults, have downloaded the game just in the last 11 months. It didn't come out till last July. And it just seems to be getting more and more popular. In fact, just watching other people play Fortnite is a full-time obsession for some people. If you can believe it, fans around the globe spent more than 5,000 years worth of time watching Fortnite streams on something called Twitch. I never heard of it. And that's just in the last 2-week period. Apparently, Twitch TV connects through the TV Xbox PS3 connection. We live in a society where there is so much unhappiness and addictive gaming, such as Fortnite, providing an escape from reality. Unfortunately, Fortnite addiction has become a very real phenomena, and frustrated parents all over the world are searching for answers. In the UK, one 9-year-old girl was so addicted to Fortnite that she would literally play the game for 10 hours a day, secretly getting up in the night and playing until dawn, neglecting to go to the toilet because she could not bear to leave the screen. She hit her father in the face when he tried to confiscate her Xbox gaming console. And she dozes off in class because of her nighttime addiction. Young people, next generation, they're going to be running the world in about 30 years. The Congressional Research Service has found that since 2006, a total of 15,851 active duty personnel and mobilized reservists have died while engaged in the armed forces. But they died here in the United States. The interesting part was that 72% of them were in the category of non-overseas contingency operations, or circumstances unrelated to war. The assessment was done because of quality issues, apparently, with earlier data. Can you say the previous administration? You see, it began in 2006, 5 years after the start of major combat operations in Afghanistan, and 3 years after the U.S.-led invasion of Iraq. Approximately 4,510 military personnel have died in military operations since 2006. Did you get 4,510? Compared to 15,800 and change. The interesting and informative statistic revolves around the other 11,000. The report said there were 4,599 personnel lost in accidents. That includes 652 related to substance abuse, 3,258 from self-inflicted injury, including 135 related to substance abuse, and 2,650 lost to illness and injury, with 14 related to substance abuse. About 11,341 service members died from non-combat events. That's about 920 per year in more than 70 countries and on the high seas. The majority, however, 93%, were right here in the US of A. Overall, alcohol or substance abuse played a role in 8% of all deaths. Approximately 4,510 military personnel have died in combat-type operations all over the globe. Improvised explosive devices, IEDs, caused approximately half of all U.S. deaths in operational war zones. This means these guys are not getting shot at. They're not dying because they're ill-equipped or they're not doing their job. Apparently, our U.S. forces are very competent, very well protected, just not against drugs and stuff. It's a testimony to our military's ability and effectiveness on the battlefield. Now, if the parents of these kids and the society at large would simply cooperate by living a healthy, decent lifestyle, by inculcating healthy qualities like morality and decency, honesty, integrity, build that into family life, it would be so much better. Oh, that's right, I forgot. There is no family anymore. See, I lose my head. I think it's 1950 again. It's not. I'm sorry. NBC ran a piece recently highlighting a young boy by the name of Desmond. Desmond performs as a drag queen. Desmond is 10 years of age. His parents view his life and his choices as his business. Can you say abdication of responsibility, parents? Now, the backstory here is that mom encouraged him to act out as a transvestite. Can you say abdication of parental responsibility? Did I mention that? Aside from the fact that this child now identifies as gay, meaning homosexual, his parents are treating him as a fully formed and informed adult. He's 10 years old. Do you find that strange? Welcome to the 21st century in America. So where does this lead him and us? Have you ever heard of Stonehenge? You know, those rocks that sit over there in Great Britain? They pop into our visor this time of year, every year. Last Thursday at dawn, thousands of people gathered at England's famous ancient monument called Stonehenge. They were there to celebrate the beginning of the summer solstice. Now, the purpose behind this monument, which was built sometime between 3000 and 1600 BC, is still a mystery to historians. They have no idea what it's all about. But as Stonehenge enthusiasts know, the pillars of the monument are in just the right location to perfectly frame the rising sun on the day of the summer solstice. Now, according to the website called Earth Sky, if you stand in just the right place inside the Stonehenge monument on the day of the northern summer solstice, and you face northeast through the entrance toward this rough-hewn stone outside the circle known as the heel stone, you will see the sun rise above that heel stone. Now, the assumption is that cavemen built the monumental megalith there in Wiltshire. That by Sean Martin I should say, at something called Express. He says, quote, but new evidence suggests that brainiacs could have been behind the building of Stonehenge, end of quote. I'm not sure what a brainiac means to him. Perhaps travelers from another planet? A book out called simply Megalith takes a look at the geometry of the monument. And they postulate that the builders likely used the Pythagorean theorem to build that Stonehenge monument. The crazy part is that Pythagoras, the Greek philosopher who came up with this theorem, a theorem that said, well, I don't have to, some of you may not know. Pythagorean theorem says that the sum areas of two squares on two sides of a triangle will always add up to the area of a square on the hypotenuse. Now you know that this theorem wasn't born until at least 2,000 years after the latest possible date for Stonehenge. 570 BC was Pythagoras' era. It's amazing. Could it be ancient human beings were simply smarter than their later cousins? I mean, can you say pyramids? It's only recently that the educated, the sophisticated have figured out what these are all about and how they possibly, and they still don't know how anybody could build them. And now with YouTube, the list of ancient inventions stagger the mind. And that list is growing. Is it something about being created and being created perfect and then being corrupted? We'll talk about that later. Now I want to talk to you about the pure Word of God. It's a new Bible translation. I think you'll be interested. Stay tuned.